Hi everyone, SGB618 here, the internet's busiest video game nerd, and today we're going to be doing a review on the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I don't know why I decided to do Anthony Fantano intro. Big shout outs to him. As you guys know, this film came out earlier last week to a very good reception, and lots of people were extremely excited for it. The reason why I wanted to watch this film as soon as I did was mostly because of you guys. You guys really wanted my thoughts on this film, as obviously a Mario fan and a Nintendo fan in general. So I watched the film with my family and a couple of our friends, and I went and analysed the film as it went on. Everyone was watching it casually around me, but I was just there like, okay, I must analyse each and every part of the film, every Easter egg, every structure layer, just everything basically. Big Star Wars fan, big Marvel fan, so obviously I know a bit about movies. Okay, I don't know where this is going, let's just begin. So I did make a couple of notes on what I thought about the film. Now, I do want to say overall, the entire concept of Illumination and Nintendo collaborating to make a film is a very great idea. I said this from the beginning. I think that the presentation is very good and looks super clean. And obviously Illumination has a great track record of making some high quality animations, and obviously Nintendo having a great track record for being high quality as well. It only makes sense that they collaborate and do something together. And obviously if something came out like this when I was a lot younger, my hype levels would have been so much higher, simply because what? I love movies, I love Mario, combine them together, what? That's pretty much what I would have loved to have seen as a kid. So better late than never, but I'm glad that it's happened. Obviously when you get to my age, you don't really get to enjoy stuff as much, you gotta work all the time. But anyway, going back to the presentation, it was incredibly on point. Definitely one of the prettiest looking Illumination films that I've seen, but even animations in general, it looks very clean throughout the entire film. There weren't any parts that looks kind of choppy or cheap. The whole thing was very consistent, super vibrant and colourful, and I think the team at Illumination did a very good job when it came to executing the visuals of everything. You could tell that it was a Mario movie before you even saw the two Donnies on screen, essentially. So it was very consistent, very contextual to the games and the series as a whole, and probably the best looking animation film that I've seen so far this year, and maybe even last year, which is a pretty big statement to make. My favourite part about this film is probably the Easter eggs. Obviously I got them all as a big time Mario fan. Obviously you had the Mario Kart references. I just realised I can't go into that much detail because this is a non-spoiler review. But essentially, if you're a big Mario fan or just a Nintendo fan in general, there are a ton of Easter eggs. But the thing that caught me by surprise actually was all of the Easter eggs. It's not like they were just visual. There were also some audio, or a lot of audio Easter eggs, which is very cool. Some of them came from left field, and some of them, we kind of did see them coming, like some music remixes and stuff like that. But the quality of all of it is really cool. Now, I understand that in terms of Easter eggs, it's very hit or miss. Especially in the movie review circle, lots of people either complain about it or love it, because obviously it's quote-unquote unnecessary and it's just for fan service. In my opinion, I think it's very cool, because yes, I agree it's not necessary and it is very fan servicey. But the fact that it's unnecessary and you still took the time and effort to put it in to obviously help the fan base to enjoy the film even more and to appreciate aspects of that film even more, I think that's a massive plus. And to be honest, that just goes to show the level of effort that they went into making this film, essentially. So I personally really enjoyed the Easter eggs. I'm pretty sure I got all of them, and I even predicted some of them as well, which I'm not going to talk about because obviously some of you haven't seen the film. I may do a spoiler review after this as well, but essentially a lot of the Easter eggs are very cool, and if you are a Nintendo banger, you would get, I would say, 95 to 100% of them. Continuing on with the pros, The voice acting was A1. Literally, every single actor did very, very well. There wasn't a single bad performance. Jack Black was probably my favourite. His Bowser was just excellent. He was just so over the top, silly, over exaggerated, outrageous, and it was, if you like Jack Black then you like Bowser, honestly. It's and then obviously you've got that iconic song that has literally joined trending music right now, which again I'm not going to disclose here just in case you don't want any spoilers. But yeah, but basically let's just say that one of the songs from the movie made it onto trending music, which is absolutely hilarious, and that song is a masterpiece. Speaking of great performances, obviously one of the biggest controversies about the film was Chris Pratt being Mario. Obviously, him not being Italian or having the Italian accent threw people off, and people thought that, especially in the trailers, his impression of Mario was kind of lackluster. In my opinion, I thought it did the job, but I thought it was kind of safe to pick Chris Pratt, simply because he has like a safe protagonist voice. Obviously, he voiced Emmett, he was Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy. See, he's kind of a safe pick when it comes to being a main character voice. However, I have to say, I think he done a pretty decent job. He sounded quite animated throughout this whole film, and at certain parts I actually forgotten that it was Chris Pratt altogether. One thing that I'm very, very happy about is that they decided to go with Brooklyn Mario rather than Italian Mario. Obviously, Mario is always Italian, but they decided to go with how do I say this? He's Italian, but he lives in Brooklyn. So he has that sort of accent, but he still sounds animated. I actually thought that was a pretty decent idea, and it makes a lot of sense. And I think that Chris Pratt, like I said, done a very excellent job with that. Definitely a lot better than we all expected him to do. This film was funny. It was funny. Obviously, this is a family-friendly movie, so it's got to apply to all ages in terms of humour and stuff like that. Definitely one of the funnier Illumination films, and definitely one of the funnier family-friendly animations in recent times, I think. There were lots of instant cuts, which are absolutely hilarious. I love instant cuts. And again, I don't want to go into too much detail, but essentially, if you're a fan of Illumination, and just animations in general, this one is definitely one of the funnier ones out there. And take it from someone who is approaching 20 years old, I still found it quite funny as well, so yeah. I also like that this film gave a lot of characters a lot more depth. Princess Peach was a lot cooler in this film than she is in the games. In the game, she's literally just a cardboard cutout, whereas in this film, she feels like an actual person. The voice actor obviously done it justice, but also the film just gave Peach a lots more layers, and I really do like that. Especially with characters that not a lot of people will know about, such as Spike, for example. Like, obviously not a lot of people will know about Wrecking Crew, especially in 2023. So the fact that they brought that character in and kind of gave him like a jerk sort of attitude, and even just the fact that they gave him dialogue in 2023, like stuff like that, attention to detail, it kind of goes back to the Easter egg thing that I was talking about earlier. Like, it's so unnecessary and they didn't need to do it, but the fact that they did shows that they really did put their all into this film, which I do appreciate. And from a story perspective, it's really good because you're giving characters spotlight. Like, there isn't any gag characters really, and there isn't just, you're not just doing things just for kicks. Like, you're doing things with purpose and you're showing things spotlight, such as characters like Spike, and even Diddy Kong showed up for at least a split second. It's all contextual and it all makes sense, so yeah, it was pretty good. Like I said, the soundtracks and the remixes are all throughout this film, and they're all very, very good. Me and my sister literally located most, if not all, of the songs and the remixes. They were remixed very, very well. I like orchestral music. I don't know how to say that word, but I feel like that they really did very well with the music. I mean, Super Mario Galaxy is an example of how orchestra music can work really well with Nintendo. So the fact that it was in a full-on film and a soundtrack, yeah, it was bound to do bits. It was very good. And the last thing that I want to touch on in terms of pros was that the action scenes and just the adventure in general was very entertaining. It all looked very good, obviously because the graphics helped. The character movements and dialogues, it all just came together quite nicely to form an adventure and some great action as well. It was all very eye-catching, and again, it links very well to the games themselves. If you've played the games, then you know what to expect from the action pieces, but they were very entertaining to follow. You obviously have some action films out there where the action is all they have to offer, and the action is just a bunch of epilepsy and just buildings getting blown up and so on and so forth. But with this, it was actually quite creative in some ways. Obviously power-ups being used, certain shots being swayed, the way that the camera moves and stuff like that. Again, I don't want to say too much because this is a spoiler-free review, so I'm intentionally being quite vague, but in terms of what I saw, I was very happy with the action pieces and it was executed very well. That being said, it's time for the cons, and I think the biggest con that I can probably think of, and this is unfortunately a huge issue for this film, as well it's a film, is the fact that from a film perspective, this is a very, very generic story. If you've played a Mario game before, you know what the story of this film is. Now, I know a lot of people are going to defend this because it's a Mario movie, and I get it. It didn't need to be a super deep story, I'm not saying that at all. But it's different in video games compared to films. With video games, you play it for the gameplay, so regardless of the story, you're probably still going to play it if it's fun. Whereas with a film, the biggest aspect of a film is the fact that it has a good story for you to follow. So because the story's quite generic, unfortunately for me, it came across as your average family-friendly animation. Now, I know I might get hate for that, and like I said, I was expecting that going into it, so I'm not saying I was disappointed at all, but that's regardless how it feels. In my opinion, if you want an Illumination film that's going to give you more of an interesting story, any of the Despicable Me films will literally do that job a lot better for you, in my opinion, because there's a lot more twists, there's a lot more interesting sides to your average villain story and stuff like that, and it's a lot less common, it's a lot less regular. It kind of, I'm not saying that you need to reinvent the wheel every single time, because you don't, especially with a Mario film. This is potentially the first step into an animated Nintendo universe, so it didn't need to be crazy, and I wasn't expecting it to, but it would have been nice. And especially comparing it, it's only right to compare it to other Illumination films. And other Illumination films have a much more interesting story than this, in my opinion. I'm just keeping it real with you. I honestly can't remember who said this, but it was basically spot on, and that's exactly how I feel. And that's that this film is a roller coaster ride first, and a story second. That's literally it, because as you just remember me saying, I was saying that the action scenes and the adventure scenes are very, very good, but the story is kind of subpar. That just kind of goes to show, right? Like visually, everything that you're seeing and everything that you're hearing and that's surrounding this film is all good, but the story itself is very basic and pretty average in terms of family-friendly animations. Like, the villain wants to take over the world, and okay, take the princess, I guess. The good guys need to come and save the day. And even with that, I feel like the story feels like it's going too fast. Obviously short attention spans, so you don't want it to go on for too long. I'm not saying it needs to be the Batman and last 3 hours long. I'm not even expecting no major character development or nothing like that. But if it was a bit longer, that would have been nice. Because, again, I'm trying to be careful with what I say because I don't want to spoil anything. But, you know how in films where characters meet for the first time and then trust is built over time and then they will do things together and so on and so forth. You don't really get that in this film. I personally don't feel that in this film. You might feel different when you see it, but in my opinion, it just feels like, oh, so you're this guy? Oh, okay, cool, let's do it. I was like, really? Like that's all it takes for you to earn my trust? Like, I just look friendly and then we're on an adventure? I don't know. That's just me personally, but I would like to hear your takes in the comments down below. So a few aspects of this film do feel a bit undercooked and very basic in my opinion, but in the words of MJ in No Way Home, expect disappointment and you won't be disappointed. So what do I think overall? I did kind of ramble on for quite some time. This was a decent little thing. Like, it's a film that I would watch again, and it's a film that met my expectations. I didn't go into this with super high hopes. I wasn't expecting it to reinvent the wheel and be the best film ever. I just thought this is going to be a neat little Mario movie, and it was a neat little Mario movie. So it gave me what I asked for, and in some areas, especially with the Easter eggs, it kind of surpassed certain expectations. But obviously the story kind of makes it lose points a little bit simply by the fact that it could have been more. And especially the fact that other Illumination films have done better with stories, it kind of makes the film look slightly less cool in my opinion. However, I really do love the sentiment, and I do love the fact that we have a modern animated Mario movie now. I think that's absolutely great. And like I said, I think visually, musically, Easter eggs, and all of the stuff that I said in the pros were done very, very well. And I can see and feel the amount of effort that they put into this film. So this wasn't a cash grab whatsoever. This wasn't a cheap film that they threw together just for some cash. Like, I can see that they really took the time to make this film. So I'm glad that they took their time with it, because we did have to wait some time for this film. And what we got is what I expected, and it's a solid family-friendly film that you can't really go wrong with. I'm feeling a light to decent 7 on this one. Okay, I'll stop. But yeah, I'll probably rate this film a 7 out of 10. Met expectations, but it's kind of basic overall. But anyway guys, that's pretty much it. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of the film. Did you love it? Did you hate it? And let me know, what other Illumination ideas do you think they can dish out? Do you think we'll get a sequel to this film? Do you think that we will get a Zelda film out of this, as Mr. N-Fan said? Big shout outs to you. Anyway guys, I'm gonna head off now and go edit this video. So all I've left to say is thank you for watching. Peace out and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.